So hello, everyone. Good morning on this Saturday morning here in Ottawa. And for those joining us online, good morning. I'm Brian Atkinson, and I am the board chair for Duchenne Canada. And I'm very honored to be here today with all of you and be a bit of an MC for our festivities over the next couple of days. So thank you for joining our 7th annual Family Forum. And we're excited to host this year's Family Forum both in person in Ottawa and also with our teams online. So before we get started, there's some housekeeping items I had the pleasure of going through. So I'll just run through these to help us have a smooth day today. So for those online, if you feel comfortable, we encourage you to turn on your camera now so the presenters can see you and interact with you throughout the weekend. Your audio has been turned off, and we request that you keep it disabled as you participate. Your keyboard will become your voice, and we encourage you to add your questions to the chat feature in Zoom. We want to ensure that you can hear the sessions clearly. So if you'd like to test your audio, please click on the up arrow next to the audio button on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and this will allow you to adjust the volume level. And there's instructions here for you on the slides. We want to try and have as much engagement as possible throughout the weekend, both here in the room and also online, between everyone in the room and those at home. So we're using a really cool event app called Whova. If you're joining us online, this means you're successfully logged into the event, and welcome. And for those in the room, we encourage you to download the Whova app from the App Store on your iPhone or Google Play on your Android. You open the app and sign in with the same email you registered for this event today. Once you sign in, you can see the Family Forum event under My Events. But if you have any difficulty, check with Kate. Kate's over here. Wave, Kate. Good morning, Kate. Kate can give you a hand at the break. So through Whova, you'll be able to ask questions in the sessions for the Q&As to the speakers to respond throughout the weekend. You'll be able to participate and share in the community discussions and the boards that we have going on. And you can also create one-on-one and group conversations through the direct messaging tool. And don't forget about our really cool contests. So about the contest, the first contest is all about engagement. Every time you use a feature on Whova, you will earn points. The participant with the most points by the end of the weekend will win a $25 Amazon gift card. Now, our second contest is all about selfies. So for those in the room, we have a selfie station over here, and those can use the selfie station to take selfies and post those selfies. Upload your selfie, and you can participate in the conference and photo contest and win a $25 iTunes gift card. And bonus points if you're in your Family Forum t-shirt. So you should have got a t-shirt when you registered this morning. So we have some cool contests. Now, if you registered before October 20th and you're joining us here in person, we hope you're enjoying your participant bag full of goodies. So you should have got a participant bag when you entered this morning from the table. We encourage you to get to know our sponsors, who are somewhere in the room here today with us. And by checking out the event program and wearing your Family Forum t-shirt throughout the year to help raise awareness for Defeat Duchenne in the community. We've included the notepad, but rest assured the majority of the sessions throughout the weekend will be recorded for future reference. And you'll receive an email once the recordings have been uploaded to Whova and our YouTube channel, so you can rewatch any of the sessions that you may have missed, and you can share them with your friends and family who weren't able to come this weekend. Finally, your feedback of this hybrid event is critical in helping us plan for future Family Forums. At the end of the weekend, we'll ask you to complete the evaluation in Whova under Resources, Surveys, and Evaluation. And this will really help us looking at our events going forward. Again, hosting a hybrid event and an in-person event can be challenging. We want to make sure everyone feels engaged and included. Now, if you're a social media buff, we encourage you to follow, like, and share throughout the weekend. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Defeat Duchenne. Now on to health and safety. So this time of year, we know there's colds and flus going around. So you'll see throughout the venue today, there is some hand sanitation stations, especially by the food, by the areas in the washroom. So we encourage you to use that. For those that are here with us today in Ottawa, we put a mask in your bag. So if you prefer to wear a mask, please feel free to do so. If you feel unwell or have symptoms of illness, we encourage you to finish the rest of the conference online and follow our local health guidelines. And we will have a lunch break in this room midday And there's water at the back here for those in the room. There's a water station, and we have coffee and tea outside. And finally, the washrooms are located just outside the room here, down the hallway and one to the left. So easy to find. So for those of you who are new to the organization, we want to say a warm welcome to all of you for joining, whether online or in the room. And we want to share a bit about our mission and how we can support you throughout the year and your journey with Duchenne or Becker muscular dystrophy. So while our organization is known for its commitment to fundraising and the promising Duchenne research, we've granted more than $60 million to over 56 projects around the world. We're also providing our community with the best education and support that we can, and information such as this family forum on our monthly virtual social for parents, which is called Canadians Talk Duchenne. We have webinars, online resources, such as our emergency care and clinical trial finder tool. Plus, as the only national charity fighting to end Duchenne, our goal is to unite our voice and advocate for timely access to treatments in Canada. And we'll be continuing that conversation Sunday and Monday at our annual advocacy summit. Now on to a big thank you. For every family forum, we partner with a leading neuromuscular center to help create and deliver these educational events for all of us. And this year, we want to say a special thank you to the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, CHEO, and specifically Dr. Leanne Ward for connecting us with the fabulous lineup of speakers we'll hear throughout the weekend. So round of applause for that, please. Again, a great thank you to CHEO and the partnership today. This educational event would not be possible without the support of educational partners. A big thank you go to a long list of partners, which I'll read out now. So our platinum sponsor is PTC Therapeutics. Our gold sponsors are Dyne Therapeutics and Edgewise Therapeutics. Our silver sponsors, and sorry, this one I have to say slowly, Intel Pharmco, Pfizer, Regenx Bio, PepGen, Avidity Biosciences, and Roche. And our bronze sponsors are Solid Biosciences, Wavelight Sciences, Sarepta Therapeutics, and BioMarin. And our print sponsor is M&T Printing Group. So we encourage all of you to get to know our sponsors by viewing their sponsor profile on Whova, connecting via direct messaging with sponsors, and tuning in tomorrow as they update us on the latest research and drug development. So onto the agenda for the next couple of days. So as I said earlier, we want this weekend to be really informational and conversational. That's really important. Therefore, each session will have a family panel component where we'll encourage those in the room and those online to ask questions, engage in discussion with the speakers, our awesome speakers, and other families to learn from one another. Today, we're going to learn about all things bone, endo, heart, and lungs. We'll have family panels on bullying and resilience, as well as what families wish they knew when they were diagnosed, which is very helpful for those new to navigating life with Duchenne. We'll have a few breakout sessions for those here in Ottawa in the room, focused on battling behaviors, transitions, unseen impacts on mental health, as well as dating, intimacy, sexuality, and sexual orientation. Finally, we'll have a difficult but necessary conversation where we'll delve into the complex emotions of grief and grieving, coping with a forever changed future, and the profound impact it has on the entire family. And we can't forget to turn our clocks back tonight an extra hour of sleep, so we'll all be refreshed. Thanks for that one, Lisa. So the agenda for day 2, good planning, yes. Tomorrow we'll start the day with a reflection from our founder, John Davidson. He'll be joining us virtually, and then we'll hear a comprehensive overview of the recent discoveries and research in progress and clinical trials. We'll then dive right into our research and drug development updates from 8 industry partners. So we have a really, really packed agenda with lots of great information, lots of great time to network and connect. Please ask questions, meet other families, and really engage and feel connected, whether you're online or in the room. So I have the great pleasure next, before we get into the agenda for the day, I want to introduce a very special person. So as many of you know, Perry Essler, who was a former CEO of Defeat Duchenne Canada, which is formerly Jesse's Journey, was involved with the organization since 1998. And he was CEO until June of this year. And then back earlier this summer, Our board engaged in extensive recruitment and selection process to find our next great leader, a strong leader who will help us fulfill our vision, a future without Duchenne. So I'm thrilled to say that Lisa McCoy, who's with us today, has emerged as a standout candidate with a remarkable combination of leadership experience and wavering determination to make a difference. And I'm thrilled that Lisa is able to be here this weekend to meet all of you and to connect with everyone virtually and online and in the room. So please join me in welcoming Lisa to our team and Lisa to the stage. Come on up, Lisa. The baton is yours.
Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure for me to be joining all of you, our dedicated Duchenne families and friends here this weekend. Many of you know, and certainly Brian just mentioned, I've just joined the organization. I joined on the 16th of October. So it's been a short few weeks, but in that time, I've already had the chance to meet so many members of the Duchenne family and been inspired by so many of you in the community. I really look forward to connecting with more of you over the weekend. I'm so pleased that I started when I did so that I didn't miss this opportunity. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime. But since I am very new to the organization, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about myself. I have spent more than 25 years working in the not-for-profit and national health charity sectors in Canada with some impactful organizations. Throughout my career, I've been really fortunate to work with outstanding volunteers, be inspired by people thriving despite some very challenging circumstances and uncertain futures, and connecting with generous supporters, partners of organizations, researchers, clinicians, elected officials, all of which has been extremely rewarding for me and inspires me every day to continue with this work. I've recently had the opportunity to serve as executive director for a national health charity that provided education and support to people with Tourette's syndrome, which is also a relatively rare condition for which there's little information, few treatments available, and a real need to try to connect people. So, that I think has really given me a great opportunity to learn a little bit about what all of that is about, which I think is quite similar in many ways to what folks with Duchenne are facing. In the roughly 18 days or so since I've been in my new role as CEO, it's become very clear to me that the Duchenne community is one of the most engaged and connected and inspiring groups of individuals that I've had the opportunity to work with. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know more of you. And one of the most astonishing and heartening aspects of Defeat Duchenne Canada, and something that I think really sets the organization apart, is that connection and engagement of the Duchenne families and the community of advocates and donors and researchers and care practitioners that make up the wider Family of Families network. To me, this is not only nice to see, but I actually think it is critical to our success. Many of you may have taken the time to offer some of your feedback by completing a strategic planning survey that we did in the last 6 months or so. And I really want to thank everyone who participated and provided their input. I really believe that by listening to all of you, understanding your needs and priorities, and working in partnership will enable us to be able to make the greatest impact possible on the most people affected by Duchenne muscular dystrophy in the years ahead. So now we are taking that information and beginning to work on a new visionary strategic plan for the organization. and the input that you've provided is really going to help us to identify our key objectives and plan for our next 3 to 5 years. And I'm really committed to ensuring those conversations continue. I want to have touch points with you throughout the process, because in the end, this is our strategic plan. This is our roadmap forward. And I really want all of you to feel part of that. So I'm truly inspired by all of you. And I promise to do everything I can to lead in a manner that's collaborative, and that also reflects the values of this impressive organization. I'm confident if we do that, we will see a future without Duchenne. So we have a full agenda. I don't want to take up too much time as Brian went through really impressive speakers and panelists for us to listen to. So I'm going to step away and thank you all again for coming, for sharing your stories, and for actively participating. Please enjoy the forum. I'll look forward to connecting with many of you. As Brian mentioned, there's lots of opportunities for interaction. I encourage you to take advantage of those. And feel free to tap me on the shoulder, come up, say hello anytime. And even beyond this forum, you'll have my contact information, and I would love to connect with you. So at this point, we're going to start our morning. And I have the pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Lorrie McAdam. Dr. McAdam is among other things, a pediatrician who leads a large multidisciplinary neuromuscular clinic at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital. She's a lecturer at the University of Toronto in the Department of Pediatrics. She is a clinician investigator with the Bloorview Research Institute and has completed the Global Clinical Scholars Research Training Program at Harvard. Her research is focused on enhancing care for patients with neuromuscular diseases, primarily Duchenne muscular dystrophy. She's also currently conducting a trial to determine the efficacy and safety of a drug that aims to slow the disease progression of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So without further ado, please let me bring Dr. Lorrie McAdam to the podium. And thank all of you.
So good morning, everyone. So we're really hopeful that our first session of the day is really going to be an interactive discussion that we have as a broader group with everyone in the room as well as everybody that's online. So Dr. Hugh McMillan and myself are going to be co-moderating this first session, and I'm just going to quickly introduce Dr. McMillan. So he is an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics, the Division of Pediatric Neurology at CHEO, within the Faculty of Medicine at the University of Ottawa. He joined the Department of Pediatrics at CHEO as a pediatric neurologist in 2010. So he brings a wealth of knowledge to the conversation we're going to be having today. So really, what we're going to be talking about is wish I knew then what I know now. So I'm going to invite up a panel of individuals to really start this conversation and to open it up. So I'm hoping that Eric and Darlene and Lorrie are able to come up to the stage, and so we can start having a discussion as a group. I hope you guys were expecting this. So in preparation for this first session, we had asked each of the different panel members if they would really think about an idea of something that they wish they knew then. What they wish they knew in the past to help inform what they're seeing today. And thank you, Hugh, for getting everything set up for everyone. Do you want to just test the speakers to make sure that they're working?
It's very true.
All right. And once again, we're hoping this is going to be a very interactive session. So there are microphones that are throughout the room. And I'm hoping that each of the individuals on the panel can just kind of briefly introduce themselves or at least say their names. I know I've said your names, but it would be really helpful for everyone in the audience to know who you are. Eric, are you okay starting? Well, then that won't work very well.
I figured it out. I should say to everybody, I've known Dr. McAdam for a long time. We actually did our undergrad together before we both went to medicine. And she used to help me with my physics labs. And she was very, very bright, particularly in physics, and she would help me up with that.
Believe it or not, I actually was in physics for my first 2 years of university. And then I decided, no, medicine is where the direction I want to go. All right. Do we think the microphone is working?
This one works.
Okay. All right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eric. I'm 23 years old and I'm at Carleton University studying biology. And I've been a part of Defeat Duchenne Canada, or as it was then, Jesse's Journey, since I was, when I can't remember how old I was. So yeah, since I was 2 years old. Yeah. So, yep, I've known this organization for a long time and I'm really excited to share my stories with you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Darlene Morden, Eric's mom. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having the discussion and I hope you brought some questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorrie Power. My son Alex has Duchenne. You can see him on the posters over here. He's 13 and we live in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia.
Excellent. So thank you. Now, what I'm hoping that we can start with, because I know it's first thing in the morning, we're all a little shy. Probably nobody wants to go up to microphones and just talk about things that they wish they had known. I wonder, Eric, if you're able to get us started off. What are things that you wish you had known that you can help inform the discussion for all the people in the room today?
Well, one thing that I definitely wish I knew was that about starting testosterone treatment, because I was noticed like around like grade 6 or 7, I felt like kind of like not the same as everyone else. And so I didn't really know, we were wondering about it, but then we didn't really have anyone to ask until I broke my leg and started seeing an endocrinologist. And so once we received that information, I was finally able to start the treatment, but it would have been nicer to know before, because I was always like, people thought I was younger than I was. And I always really did not like that, right? Like there was one incident where we were on a vacation and someone said, "Oh, is that your child or something? Or is that your baby?" And I'm like, how old do you think I am? And yeah, so being able to match up to everyone else like that is the same age as me, that it was tough for me to not be able to like be the same as them or feel differently than everyone else around me. So making sure you have a like endocrinologist and ask about testosterone, like, and when that treatment should start is, yeah.
No, I think you bring up a really important point, Eric. And I think as physicians, we definitely were not as proactive about that. When I think about my personal practice 10 years ago, and I'd say, I hope I'm better. I don't know if any of my patients are in the room or they're online. So I do hope I'm getting better at it. But I do think it's essential to have those conversations. I know I definitely talk about it when I'm starting corticosteroid treatment, and it's really about circling back and having those discussions early. And I think there's probably a variety of practices, and I think there's different people are ready at different time to have those discussions. So I know what I do is I start re-mentioning it at 10, mention it again at 11, mention it again at 12, because I think there's something about starting testosterone, because and I tell all of my patients that It doesn't happen immediately. You can't go through puberty overnight, and it takes several years. So it's really thinking ahead when you're in grade 12. And, you know, it's going to take many years before you start experiencing those changes. So it sounds like for you, it was really positive to start testosterone.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Although I wish I had started it earlier,
Yeah.
of course, but now I know. And now hopefully you all know as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I know Dr. Ward is in the room as well. So I don't know if she has any thoughts on this, or if any of the families here have thoughts on this, or is anyone here, you know, thinking about it, but not sure if they want to go that next step? Oh, I see Dr. Ward coming up to the microphone.
Yeah, no, thank you, Eric, for sharing that. I'm so glad you raised it. I am going to speak about that formally in a few minutes in the next session. But, you know, I think it is something that we're doing better than we used to. And I also just want to sensitize people to the fact that as physicians, we have to develop a comfort with discussing testosterone and puberty. And that's something that takes us time as well. When we're more junior, it's a little bit more uncomfortable for us. And then as we get older and more experienced, we become more comfortable. So in a way, we're all kind of learning and growing about this together. But I really appreciate you bringing this up today.
And I might add too, I think we're gaining more experience as clinicians with recommending testosterone, particularly for young teens that haven't started puberty on their own. So that's a time where we're also, even just with regards to bone health, I think in general, neuromuscular physicians were much more aware of the morbidity of steroids on bone, and linking the boys and the young men we follow to endocrinologists sometimes prior to even starting steroids. And for people who aren't on them, they're still followed by endocrinology because of the risks to bone. So the relationship with endocrinologists starts much sooner, and that helps us a lot with the testosterone discussions. But we also make sure, just as physicians, that that conversation is had if there's no signs of puberty by the early teen years, because we're recognizing both the social benefits for some people to receive testosterone, as well as a small potential effect on muscle strength as well. That's not a major factor, but sometimes can be a minor side effect or contributor or bonus to the testosterone as well.
And I guess the one other thought, just as I'm listening to the discussion, is the decision to start testosterone is really a personal decision. And so I think it's really important to have these conversations, to listen to your son, hear what they're saying and try and hear what they're not saying. And it is okay to choose to not treat with testosterone if that is what you're hearing, but it's also okay to revisit that conversation, because it may be a very different answer the year after that. Because I think all of us, we have pressures from many different aspects of our life. And in Duchenne, in the teen years, there are many pressures because you're starting to see many more physicians having many more interventions. And so this can feel like yet another intervention, but it's really taking that step back and thinking about what is important to you as an individual and having those discussions with their son, because maybe this is the one intervention that they do want to do, but they're afraid to talk about. And I think that what's helpful is having these relationships with different people on your neuromuscular teams, because maybe it isn't going to be the muscle doctor. Maybe it is the endocrinologist. Maybe it's actually the occupational therapist. It's really who are they most comfortable with to have these conversations to help guide their decisions. Sorry, I saw a hand being raised.
No, just for the people online.
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask Eric something like the description or like the research that we had is that you're taller, you're, grow your beard and, other hair on your body and stuff. And so that you can assimilate more to the boys around you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Lucas is already small and he's already in a wheelchair and he's like, I don't really want all that. And then friends of ours said, well, then we're just shaving him. And so like, he doesn't really, that's just something else that we have to do for him, but he doesn't really want that. I just don't like, how did you feel it? How did you make it? How did it feel that you were assimilating better?
Yeah, well, I think it's also kind of like changes mentally, like how you can interact with people that are your age, because sometimes like I think I was a little hesitant to even start the testosterone at first. I think just a little bit because I thought, oh, that's going to be a few changes. But once it kind of started happening, because it really didn't start until I like entered university. But I found I was able to just communicate better with people the same age as me or even older. And it just, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain because there wasn't like the physical changes didn't really, well, I mean, there are a few physical changes that did kind of make me feel a little bit like more sure of myself and kind of just raise my self-esteem. And yeah, a lot of it was just being able to interact with other people my age. It just kind of felt easier to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. I assume you'll let us know if there are any questions online or any comments online. Okay, perfect.
Can I just add, Laura, the other thing to consider with testosterone is depending a little bit on age and stage, it's also important to talk to your doctors because it can be an exclusion for clinical trials. So, we have to weigh everything up in terms of what the priorities are, if it is or is not an issue. So just be cautious with things like that, because once started, it could be an exclusion criteria, again, depending on interests and priorities.
Just a question online for Dr. McAdam. Has this information now been integrated into the standards of care?
You can take that.
Yeah, we foresee it coming in the near future. It's certainly being discussed. It's certainly raised in terms of priority. It's incredible how quickly the standards of care start to become older. I think Dr. Ward is going to speak to this because she was the senior author on the 3 Lancet Neurology Standard of Care publications. But Dr. Ward?
Yeah, and again, I'll talk more about this in the session, but indeed, the treatment of delayed puberty is now in the 2018 standards of care. So the recommendation is that we start to talk to individuals around 12 years of age, just to take their pulse on how they're feeling about puberty and introduce the notion of puberty and what it is and why it's delayed in this context. And of course, it's because of the steroid therapy. And then if there are no signs of puberty by 14, and I'm going to teach you what signs of puberty look like, might surprise you a little bit what exactly puberty is, true puberty, then we do recommend starting testosterone by about 14. However, respecting what Laura said, and that is that not everybody is ready at that age and that it is a very personal decision. And so we always follow the individual's lead, but we make sure that they're aware that this is an option. And it also takes time to go through puberty. So when you start testosterone, you don't wake up with a beard the next day, right, Eric? No. It takes 2 or 3 years. So if you're trying to get to a place where you look a certain way, in order to be a little bit more like your peers, you have to recognize it takes time and we don't do it quickly. So those are some of the nuances that I'll talk about in more detail, but this is now part of the standards of care. And that's why we're here talking about it.
That's excellent. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you. So Darlene, is there anything, I know we're going to switch topics. Okay. Darlene, do you have anything that you wish you had known?
Just going to move this a bit closer.
So the one thing, when one of the first devices we used to get Eric around was a McLaren pushchair. I don't know if that's still something that people use. So it's just like an oversized umbrella stroller, really. And it was very easy to carry, throw in the trunk. Eventually graduated to what was called a travel wheelchair. So it's not a proper wheelchair, just sort of fold up travel one. And it had the wheelchair wheels that you could take on and off. So we would start to use that. I wish we had started using the wheelchair, sort of accepted using that, even though it was not as convenient, with the wheels on it.
Yes.
Just because it would have sent a better message. And this whole talking about the testosterone, that was one of the things, Eric would get offered the children's menu. Like when he was 14. And if we'd been using the wheelchair, I think it just would have sent a better message to people around on your age and that you would look older. Yeah. And it was actually our younger son who said, we really should start using that and we should put the wheels on it. So that was one thing. So just having accepted using a proper chair, even though it was not as convenient. The other thing is orthotics for his running shoes. So you were still walking.
Yes.
And I noticed his gait changing a little bit, and I wish we'd gone and it was just inserts into his running shoes at first. So he now has something more proper, like an AFO kind of setup, but just to get proper inserts into his running shoes, there were so many other things going on at the time. Like you were busy with school, you were in robotics. There was a lot going on. I thought, oh, I'm not going to find one. I didn't want to interfere. I wish I had interfered and pulled him out of something to go get the orthotics for his shoes when his gait started right away. Because it did get worse, and then it was harder to fix after that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It looks, Eric, like you're agreeing with the things.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so it's interesting. So because I knew we were having this conversation today. So for the last month or so, I've been asking families as they've been coming into clinic about things they wish they had known. And it's interesting what you brought up, your first point, Darlene. One of them talked about talking about equipment in a positive way. And so I feel that fits with your first theme, and also how equipment can facilitate participation in activities and can help with energy conservation. And so really using it as a tool so that you're able to do the things you want to do. And I know I have these conversations quite often, and I think our society has labeled sometimes when you see a wheelchair that someone is going to be permanent in a wheelchair. And I know what's challenging with neuromuscular conditions, it's your body is experiencing these slow changes over time. And so it's really using this piece of equipment so you can go and do all of the things you want to be doing in your life. And really, I think as a society, and I think part of what Defeat Duchenne is doing by raising awareness is changing that lens that we're looking through, and really ensuring that the young men are able to do all of the activities they're interested in doing, and that they have the energy to be able to do that. Does that resonate at all with you?
Yeah, because sometimes like when I was still I was sort of like walking / in the wheelchair when we were going places, that just sitting down for like 10 minutes being pushed around, I'd be able to get back up and like be able to do stuff for another half hour pretty much. Like it's all about kind of just conserving energy, and because you get fatigued a lot faster, obviously. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's this concept that we have to make sure that we're talking about is energy conservation. And so in the room here, have you guys all heard of energy conservation? Has this been talked to you before? I'm seeing lots of nods. Yeah, and it's so important. And when you sit back and think about it, we all conserve our energy in different ways, but we need to think about it when you have muscle weakness, how can you conserve your energy? And I think what you're saying, how when you're sitting in a wheelchair, and I think that's when we're thinking about wheelchairs and strollers. Wheelchairs, they really support your body because they're personalized to your body. So it allows your body to rejuvenate faster than if you have a different type of mobility device that maybe isn't personal to you. It's a different type of rest, a different type of energy conservation. And so, but you're right, they're big, they're bulky. They're hard to move around. So I think, once again, this comes to making personalized decisions that work in your life at that time, but just making sure you're aware of all these different aspects when you're thinking about equipment. Dr. McMillan, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add other than just say, if anyone in the audience wants to add anything or share anything, just put your hand up and I'll bring this over to you. Perfect. If I just ask you to introduce yourself, if you would.
So I'm Megan. So I actually have a question for Eric. So my son is 10 and we're sort of at that cusp where he's ready, or he would benefit from sometimes using his wheelchair. We've had it for a few years, but he is really reluctant because it makes him look different and he already feels pretty different. And like, how was that transition for you as you started to use it more frequently? Because he really would, we brought it with us because it would be great for him to like use it, for example, when we go see the Parliament buildings. But he's so resistant, even though we talk about it being a tool and something that would mean that he could participate better with his friends and sort of get more enjoyment out of that.
Sorry, I'm just thinking. Well, I remember there was one time when we were on a family cruise, and I was like walking around with this group of friends that my brother and cousin and I had made. And we got the wheelchair back in, and it didn't really seem to phase any of the people that we were with, these total strangers. And I like my fatigueness and my energy level was able to just go right back up. And I was able to enjoy what was happening a little bit more. And yeah, I know it does make you look a little different and all that kind of stuff, but the more you kind of use the wheelchair and like take the power away from other people thinking it doesn't look good, like just kind of say, yeah, I'm in a wheelchair. That's what it is. Yeah. Hope that helps. Sorry.
Absolutely.
He was in charge of the mic. That's why he went to school so long. I just wanted to say, like, we do have a travel buggy that we still use. My son's 16, but we still use it. But when he was around 10 or 11, we took the travel, but it's foldable and it looks like a chair, you know, with wheels. And we took it, they were playing street hockey and he couldn't play. Like, he was at the cusp of not really being able to play. We were scared he'd get knocked over, obviously. And he took that out a couple of days and the boys without us. So he would go out and we're in the window, obviously, but, and he let them sit in it and they used it and they pushed it around and then he got in it and they sort of like all were playing with it. And then he got in it and then they just started playing hockey. They just wanted to see, it was sort of like a unicorn, like, what is this? And he was like showing them how to drive it. And it had a motor. So boys, right? And so they like wheeled it around and then they're like, okay, we got it. Let's play hockey. And he went in the chair and they played hockey and it's sort of like assimilating it to the neighborhood even, or the boys around him, if that's what he's worried about, because that's what Lucas was worried about, like around your friends. And then now it's just normal and he's still playing street hockey. So I don't know.
Something to add on to that, if the wheelchair has a horn, people love it for some reason. Oh yeah. Even there's these 3 kids across the street. They were like, I've known them since they were little kids. I think them. They just come and like, they don't really see the wheelchair. I mean, they'll ask questions obviously, but it's just because they're curious about that kind of stuff. But then I say, hey, do you want to honk the horn? They love doing that. So yeah, so definitely.
Especially Sophie. Yeah.
Yeah. So showing off the features of like cool things, because people are interested in stuff they don't know, right? They're not really saying, oh, you're different. They're like, oh, that's cool. What, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a family, I know my wife was always good at this, and his older sister, not sure if he has siblings, getting them in the wheelchair, you know, just so they can, a little bit of an acting job, but so that he can see, hey, look, it's not abnormal at all. Just use it as a tool to keep you going.
Hi, I'm Kasha. My son Jude is around the same age. He's 11. When we were looking at energy conservation, and this is just something we did, and he wasn't really open to a wheelchair, very resistant at first, but he did need that energy conservation. What we ended up going to was something called Auto Moving into Life. It was an actual, it was a scooter, essentially, that folded out. It could go compact. People were like, this thing is amazing. We go through like airports and stuff. And it looks like a carry-on suitcase that literally folds out into a scooter, but the seat can flap up so you could stand, you could sit on it. Friends were like, give me a ride. This is awesome. Like, it was so cool and yet so compact. And that's what helped him sort of transition into something that he's using. It's motorized, so he has that autonomy. And so it wasn't a wheelchair, but it was something that was helping him. So just another view on that.
Yeah, well, actually, I think she's on the phone. His Aunt Lisa bought him one of those battery-powered 4-wheelers. So that really started our transition. He'd take that around the neighborhood, pile 6 kids on the back, and it was just an absolute blast. And then we transitioned to a scooter and then to the wheelchair. So it was a bit of a transition for us. But hi, Lisa.
Just another comment from online, just agreeing with what's been said in the room, that one of Lucy, who's joining us online, one of her doctors talked about the wheelchair in a positive way, which made all the difference for her son, and it might not have been raised otherwise.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. I think this really is generating a wonderful conversation, and I can see that information is being shared between families, and that's really what this conference is about. So, Lorrie, I'm hoping that you can share a few things with us as well.
So I kind of hate to take the positive tone of this conversation down, but I think for us looking back, the thing that I wish we had more information about at the beginning of our journey 8 years ago is about steroids. It's been the biggest hurdle for us in terms of weight gain, in terms of compression fractures, behavioral concerns. So I think if we could go back to the beginning of our journey and have more information about managing weight, getting ahead of that, not letting it even spiral out of control for 6 months or 12 months, and just having alternatives, maybe like starting metformin along with steroids, alternative dosing schedules, a weekend dosing. I know some people do 10 days on, 10 days off, but we started on daily steroids right from the beginning. And while it's been great, and our 13-year-old is still walking and mobile with mostly everything, it's been a huge, huge problem. And it's definitely our number one concern. So yeah, if we could go back to the beginning and just have more information about everything surrounding steroids, and yeah, that's been our biggest problem. So
thank you so much for sharing that. And because this really does need to be a safe place where we're able to express our worries, express our concerns, and express our experiences. And I think you did a lovely job, Lorrie, just explaining that, because I think everyone in this room has faced similar questions, concerns, and although everyone's experience is unique and different, I think there's a lot of commonality. But you're right, there are a lot of side effects to steroids, and weight is a really challenging side effect to steroids. And I think I wish all neuromuscular clinics in Canada had a dietitian, but I know we do not. And so that also means that you are probably not getting all of the support that's needed. And I know that's just one of the many aspects of what you were talking about with side effects with steroids. And over the last 10 years, there's definitely been an evolution of knowledge about steroids. And as physicians, we now have more data and information at our fingertips where we can talk more about the pros and the cons of the different steroid regimes, the dosing protocols, and really work with the individual families of balancing the benefits as well as the side effects. And I really think it's going to, once again, what I'm saying is everything is individualized, but I think it is going to be individualized because for different people and different children, we're going to need to be weighing those balances differently. And you're right with behavior. And I know we have several conversations today about the neurobehavioral profile in Duchenne, also the impact of steroids on some of those symptoms. And I think all of that is going to impact the discussion as well as the recommendations. And I think we can now have better nuanced conversations. And I think it's important to have those conversations. So if as families, you have questions now, it doesn't matter the age of your child, bring those conversations back to your muscle clinic, have those conversations, outline your concerns, because that's why we're there. We need to listen and we need to hear you and maybe probe, because there may be other things that that also need to be discussed around those decisions.
Yeah, I think as physicians, there can often be a real focus on the potential benefits of steroids, and there are some modest potential benefits in terms of keeping the muscle stronger for longer. But I think that needs to be balanced with, and they're not possible side effects; they're anticipated side effects. So we know steroids are going to impact bone. There's no ifs with that. And we know steroids are likely to increase weight. So it's important to discuss that. And I think both Dr. Ward and Dr. Hajianakis, who we'll introduce later, will talk more about the endocrine side effects to steroids. But I think when steroids are started, it's important to see the person more often. It's not enough to just be followed every 6 months. It needs to be every 3 months for the first year. And a dietitian is critically important, I agree, but I think we as physicians, and this is starting to happen, but there needs to be more focus when there is weight gain that's occurring about starting medications sooner. So it's not enough to say, oh, eat better, change your habits. Sometimes that can be an issue. So I'm not completely throwing that out. But I think it's wrong to continue to go back to a young person and their family, visit after visit after visit, and just assume it's because there's a problem with the diet, there's a problem with the food that one's eating too much. There's medications that are quite effective. Like metformin, you mentioned, can be beneficial for some people. It's an off-label prescription, but there was some data that's been forwarded from the Ohio group, and this is quite a while ago. It was in an abstract. It's never actually been published in the literature, but it showed that when metformin was started, the steroid-related weight gain just plateaued in their cohort compared to those who weren't on metformin, where it continued to rise. So it's not so much a weight loss drug, and it's more of a weight stabilization drug. So that's something that's a potential consideration for some people. And then there are other medications that can be considered if weight continues to gain. But it should never, ever, in my opinion, be looked at as a blame game. It should not be a focus on continuing to beat on a dead horse when someone's not able to stabilize weight gain. We need to do a better job of intervening and trying to manage things with medications at an earlier stage.
Just a question on that from online, and maybe you'll go into this a little bit more in session 2, but are drugs like semaglutide or Ozempic approved for kids to help with weight management? They seem to be superior for weight reduction than metformin and helpful for heart health and often prescribed for adults. What are the side effects of these drugs?
So I'm actually going to defer that. And then maybe for the next session, we are able to address that, because I'm seeing a yes from someone who will be able to address that question. So it is an important question, and thank you so much for asking.
And just a note, we have just a few minutes left in this session before we wrap up.
Thank you.
So my name is Tom Capelli, and my son Aiden is 26, and he stopped walking about 2 years ago. He has Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And it's kind of interesting what you're saying, because Dr. Poulain wanted to, when he was 17, she wanted to increase his dose of deflazacort. And he was taking 24 milligrams. And I don't remember, it's a long time ago, but I think she wanted to move him up to 36 or 42 because of his weight and his size. And he said, no, I want to stay at 24. So he tried it for a few weeks and he said, I don't feel good. I want this to come down. So she brought him back down to 24. He's been at 24 ever since. His weight gain was minimal until he stopped walking 2 years ago. And now the blame game, I mean, we're hearing that from the doctors. Well, you got to see a dietitian, you got to do this, you got to do that. So I'd like to jot down that information and see if I can take it back to his, to blow them up a little bit at the neuromuscular clinic for the adults in Montreal. Yeah, thank you.
And if he is 26, he may also benefit from some of the other agents that Dr. Hajianakis will talk about in the next session, I'm sure.
Thanks, Hugh. So once again, Ken Cheeseman, our son Lucas, 16. I almost feel embarrassed to talk at some of these conferences because I feel we were so lucky. We had Dr. McMillan and Dr. Ward right up front with us, telling us about the benefits and the unfortunate side effects of steroids. We had the Mordens as the neighbor of my brother that kind of showed us. So our main factor in able to reduce weight gain is swimming. I mean, there's no other ifs, ands, or buts. We're not dietitians by any means. We've tried it. We've seen the blame game, but we've really putted it. We saw from them the daily routine, find a pool, get in there, I'm sure, Eric, you can talk about the freedom that you must have felt of the weightlessness of being in the water. We started off with a life jacket. We were always scared. Started off with a life jacket. He got better swimmer. We went to a wetsuit that gave him that extra bit of floatability. And now he's swimming on his own. So during the summer months, we have a daily routine. We're in a pool. He swims laps. I mean, they just can't burn the calories in any other fashion as they can swimming. And he just loves, to this day, that feeling of weightlessness and what it gives them. And Eric, I'll turn it over to you guys because I know you guys had that as part of your routine as well.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool. So yeah, and one thing we did is, so we don't have a pool. And of course, sometimes we would go across the street to Ken and Maureen, you know, to the kids, and they would love swimming with me as well. But we actually started going to a hotel nearby where we just asked, hey, would we be able to just come in for like 20 minutes, like twice a week or once a week, just to use your pool, because they're very good shaped. Like the hotel pools are just like rectangles, so it's very easy to just do laps in them. And it's just a very good way, instead of having to pay to go to like a community center, we would just go to the hotel, they'd give us a key and we'd use the pool, give it back to them. And yeah, we started doing that like like just
Before 2013.
yeah, like, yeah, so I've been doing it about 10 years now. We were at the hotel for a little while, and yeah, definitely the swimming. And the other thing about learning how to swim is that I know it's kind of one of the benefits, because the steroids make the bones less dense. It's much easier to float and actually like just swim around. And one of the good things, even, it's not even just like the swimming, but also just kind of like walking back and forth in the pool is just very good exercise without the weight. It's cool. This past week, I was at the community center doing a swim, and because it's deep enough, I was able to like get myself standing up, which is something I haven't felt in a very long time. So yes, swimming, really good thing to do for sure.
I just want to ask one more question from online before we wrap up this session. This is from Sandra. My son has been off steroids for a month after taking them for 8 years. When can we expect significant weight loss?
Sorry, if I understood that question, son had been on steroids for 8 years, but has stopped it and has been off for a month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, it's there may be some weight loss, but I would say weight stabilization is a more common story when steroids are stopped. I do think that, and it depends a little bit on age, depends on mobility, it depends on burning calories. There's a lot of different factors that play into that, but depending on the stage and depending on the capacity to burn calories, there still may be an advantage to talking to the team about other medications that that might be beneficial. More and more, we're giving attention to medications like metformin that can offer a little bit of an edge or a little bit of a supplement to try to help with weight-related issues. But talk to the doctors and bring some of the things that have been discussed today to them to discuss, because I think it really does need to be personalized in terms of that individual and with a number of factors considered.
Perfect. Thank you.
So first of all, or I guess I really want to thank the entire panel for being brave and coming up and speaking. I think your wealth of knowledge is greatly appreciated by everybody here as well as everybody online. And I think it's really opened up important conversations. So thank you. We could not have had this session without each and every one of you here, as well as everybody in the audience.